Good evening, beautiful souls. Picture this. A lone butterfly emerging from its cocoon. No one helps it break free, no one can. In fact, if you were to help that butterfly, you'd be robbing it of the very struggle that strengthens its wings for flight. That solitary battle. That's what makes it strong enough to soar. Isn't it fascinating how nature's most profound lessons often come wrapped in moments of solitude? Tonight, we're going to explore a truth that might feel uncomfortable at first. But I promise you, embracing this truth will transform your life in ways you never imagined. The strongest people are those who survive alone. Now, before you misunderstand me, this isn't about pushing people away or building walls around your heart. This is about discovering a strength within yourself that's been there all along, a strength that many of us have forgotten we possess. When was the last time you sat in complete silence, with no phone, no TV, no distractions, just you and your thoughts? Does the very idea make you uncomfortable, that discomfort? That's where our journey begins. You see, we live in a world that's terrified of solitude. We've confused being alone with being lonely. We scroll through social media feeds to feel connected. We fill our calendars to avoid empty spaces. And we surround ourselves with noise to drown out our inner voice. But here's the beautiful paradox. True strength, unshakable strength, is born in those moments when we dare to stand alone. Think about the ocean for a moment. On the surface, waves crash and collide, creating chaos and turbulence. But deep beneath in the ocean's solitary depths, there's profound stillness and immense power. That's what we're talking about tonight. Finding that deep, quiet strength that can only be discovered when we're truly alone with ourselves. I remember a time in my life when everything seemed to fall apart simultaneously. My career, my relationships, my sense of purpose, all of it crumbled like a house of cards. Everyone had advice, everyone had opinions, everyone had solutions. But in that chaos, I discovered something profound. The answers I needed weren't in the noise of others' opinions. They were in the silence of my own. You see, when you learn to be strong alone, you develop something remarkable. An inner compass that guides you regardless of external circumstances. It's like building a house on solid rock instead of shifting sand. The storms may come, and they will come, but your foundation remains unshakable. Now, I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself as a mighty oak tree. Your branches reach toward the sky, your leaves dance in the wind, but what makes you truly unshakable? It's your roots, those hidden, solitary anchors that grow stronger in darkness and solitude. No one sees them, no one celebrates them, but without them, you couldn't stand tall. That's what we're talking about tonight. Developing those deep, invisible roots of inner strengths. The kind of strength that doesn't need constant validation or external support. The kind of strength that remains steady when everything else is chaos. But here's something crucial to understand. This journey toward inner strength isn't about becoming hard or cold. Quite the opposite. When you develop true inner strength, you become more compassionate, more authentic, more capable of genuine connection, because you're no longer connecting from a place of need or fear, but from a place of wholeness. Think about the most resilient people you know. The ones who maintain their peace even when life becomes turbulent. The ones who can stand firm in their truth even when everyone else is walking the other way. What do they all have in common? They've learned the art of being strong alone. This strength isn't about physical prowess or intellectual capability. It's about something far more fundamental, the ability to be at peace with yourself, to trust your inner wisdom, to stand firm in your truth even when you're still. In my years of speaking with people from all walks of life, I've noticed something remarkable. The ones who make the biggest impact, who bring the most light into the world, aren't necessarily the ones with the most friends or the biggest support networks. They're the ones who have learned to be their own best friend, their own source of wisdom and strength. You might be thinking, but isn't this a lonely way to live? Here's the beautiful truth. When you develop this inner strength, this ability to be complete within yourself, your relationships actually become richer and more meaningful because you're no longer seeking others to complete you. You're seeking them to share your completeness. The more comfortable you become with solitude, the more genuine your connections with others become. When you're no longer afraid to be alone, you're no longer compelled to maintain relationships out of fear or need. You can choose connections that truly enrich your life, and you can offer others the gift of your authentic presence. Let me be clear. This isn't about isolation. This isn't about building walls. This is about building a foundation so strong within yourself that nothing external can shake you. It's about developing the kind of inner resources that allow you to weather any storm, face any challenge, and walk any path with grace and dignity. Think about the times in your life when you felt most alive, most authentic, most true to yourself. Chances are, these weren't moments when you were following the crowd or seeking approval. They were moments when you dared to listen to your own inner voice, when you had the courage to stand alone in your truth. That's the kind of strength we're talking about tonight. The strength to be uniquely, unapologetically yourself, even if that means standing alone sometimes. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't need more followers. It needs more people who have the courage to stand alone in their truth, to blaze their own trails, to listen to their own inner wisdom. You know, there's something profound that happens when you first embrace solitude. It's like turning down the volume on the outside world and finally hearing the whispers of your own soul. At first, that silence might feel deafening. We're so used to the constant noise, the endless chatter, the continuous stream of opinions and advice from others. But in that silence, something magical begins to unfold. Let me share something with you that might change the way you think about being alone. Have you ever noticed how a diamond is formed? Deep beneath the Earth's surface in complete isolation, under immense pressure and heat, a piece of carbon transforms into something magnificent. No one's there to witness the process. No one's there to offer encouragement or support. Yet in that solitude, in that pressure, something of extraordinary beauty and strength is created. That's exactly what happens when you learn to embrace solitude. You begin to transform in ways you never thought possible. But here's the key. You have to be willing to sit with yourself, to face your own thoughts, your own fears, your own dreams. And yes, sometimes your own darkness. I remember meeting a remarkable individual who had spent years building a successful business. When I asked him about his journey, he said something I'll never forget. The hardest meetings I ever had were the ones with myself. You see, in those solitary moments when he had to make crucial decisions, when the path forward wasn't clear, he learned to trust his inner guidance above all else. The strength to survive alone isn't just about physical solitude. It's about mental and emotional independence. It's about developing the ability to think for yourself, to trust your intuition, to make decisions without needing constant validation from others. How many of your current beliefs are truly yours? How many are simply inherited from your family, your culture, your society? When was the last time you questioned these beliefs? Examine them in the silence of your own mind and decided for yourself what you truly believe. This is where real strength begins to develop. When you start questioning, when you start examining, when you start thinking for yourself, it's not always comfortable. In fact, it can be downright terrifying. But this is where true personal power is born. Let me tell you something that might surprise you. The most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have with yourself. These are the conversations that shape your destiny, that determine your path, that define who you truly are. But here's the catch. You need to be strong enough to be honest with yourself, to face your own truth without flinching. I've seen people transform their lives completely when they finally learn to be alone with themselves. Not just physically alone, but mentally and emotionally self-sufficient. They stopped looking for approval, stopped seeking permission, stopped waiting for someone else to validate their dreams. You see, when you develop this kind of strength, something remarkable happens. You stop being swayed by every opinion that comes your way. You develop what I call an inner sanctuary, a place of quiet confidence that no external circumstance can disturb. Think of it like this. Imagine you're standing in the middle of a storm. The wind is howling, the rain is pouring, everything around you is chaos. But deep within, there's a place of absolute calm, of unwavering peace. That's what it means to be truly strong alone. It's not about being untouchable or unfeeling. It's about having an inner center that remains steady regardless of external circumstances. And let me be clear about something. This journey isn't always going to be comfortable. There will be moments when every fiber of your being wants to run back to the familiar, to the comfortable, to the crowd. There will be times when the silence feels too loud, when the solitude feels too heavy. These moments, these are your transformation points. Just like that butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon, these moments of discomfort are strengthening you, preparing you for flight. The struggle isn't your enemy. It's your ally in building strength. Here's a powerful truth that took me years to understand. The person you become when no one's watching is who you really are. It's in those private moments, those solitary decisions, those quiet choices that your character is built. Anyone can appear strong when they're surrounded by support. But can you maintain your strength when you're standing alone? Think about the great innovators, the revolutionaries, the change makers throughout history. Many of them had to stand alone with their vision long before others could see what they saw. They had to trust their inner knowing even when the whole world doubted them. That's the kind of strength we're talking about. But this strength isn't just for the history makers and world changers. It's for you right here, right now. It's for the moments when you need to make a difficult decision. It's for the times when you need to stay true to your values, even when it's unpopular. It's for those crossroads in life when you need to trust your own inner compass. Let me share something powerful with you. The moment you embrace your ability to stand alone is the moment you become truly free. Free from the need for constant approval. Free from the fear of rejection. Free from the endless cycle of seeking validation from others. This freedom, it's not about disconnecting from others. It's about connecting with yourself so deeply that your relationships become choices rather than necessities. When you're strong alone, you can love more purely, give more freely, and connect more authentically. Think about water for a moment. When it's contained in a cup, it takes the shape of that container. But in its natural state, it flows freely, carving its own path, finding its own way. That's what happens when you develop the strength to be alone. You stop trying to fit into other people's containers. You begin to flow in your own unique direction. The world tries to tell us that we need constant connection, constant validation, constant support. But what if the greatest gift you could give yourself is the gift of self-sufficiency? What if the strongest foundation for connection with others is actually the ability to be complete within yourself? Now let's talk about something that might feel a bit uncomfortable. The price of developing this inner strength. Because make no mistake, there is a price. When you begin to stand in your own truth, when you start trusting your inner wisdom above the crowd's wisdom, some people won't understand. Some might even walk away. And that's okay. Let me repeat that. It's okay. Because what's happening in those moments isn't loss, it's clarification. It's life helping you distinguish between those who love you for who you are and those who love you for who they want you to be. Think about a tree for a moment. As it grows taller, reaching higher toward the sky, some of its lower branches naturally fall away. This isn't a tragedy, it's part of the growth process. The tree doesn't mourn these branches. It channels more energy into its upward growth. That's exactly what happens when you begin to stand strong in your own truth. But here's where many people get stuck. They say, I want to be strong, I want to be independent, but I don't want to be alone. They confuse independence with isolation. They mistake self-sufficiency for solitude. Let me share something profound with you. The strongest people aren't strong because they chose to be alone. They're strong because they chose to be true to themselves, even if that meant standing alone. In nature, the strongest trees are often found standing alone on mountaintops. Why? Because they've had to develop deep roots to withstand every storm that comes their way. No other trees shield them from the wind. No other trees protect them from the lightning. They stand alone, and in that standing, they develop But here's the beautiful paradox. When you develop this kind of strength, when you learn to stand firmly in your own truth, you actually become capable of forming deeper, more authentic connections with others. Because you're no longer connecting from a place of need or fear, but from a place of wholeness and choice. Let me share something powerful with you. The most profound relationships in your life will be with people who respect your solitude. They won't demand that you compromise your truth to make them comfortable. They won't require you to shrink your light to make theirs shine brighter. How many times have you dimmed your light because it made others uncomfortable? How many times have you silenced your truth because it didn't fit with the group's consensus? How many times have you compromised your values because standing alone seemed too frightening? These are the moments that define us. These are the crossroads. We either choose the comfort of conformity or the strength of authenticity. And yes, choosing authenticity can sometimes mean standing alone. But standing alone, in truth, is infinitely more powerful than standing with a crowd in lies. Now let's talk about fear. Because if you're human, and I assume everyone in this room you felt the fear of standing alone, the fear of being different, the fear of being misunderstood, the fear of being rejected. This fear isn't your enemy. It's actually a compass pointing toward your growth. When you feel that fear rising up within you, when your heart starts racing at the thought of standing alone in your truth, that's not a signal to retreat. That's a signal that you're on the edge of your comfort zone, about to step into a new level of strengths. Think of it like this. Every time you choose your truth over conformity, every time you listen to your inner wisdom over external pressure, every time you stand firm in your values even when you're standing alone, you're building spiritual muscle. Just like physical muscle, spiritual muscle is built through resistance, through challenge, through choosing the harder path. This journey toward inner strength isn't about becoming invulnerable. It's not about building walls or becoming cold. It's about developing such a strong center that you can remain open and warm even when facing opposition. Imagine a lighthouse for a moment. It stands alone on rocky shores, enduring every storm that comes its way. But its purpose isn't to stand alone. Its purpose is to shine, to guide, to serve. That's what true inner strength looks like. It's not about isolation. It's about having such a strong foundation that you can be a light for others even in the darkest storms. Let me share a truth that might change your perspective. The world doesn't need more people who can blend in with the crowd. The world needs more people who have the courage to stand alone in their truth, who have the strength to listen to their inner wisdom, who have the audacity to be uniquely themselves. Think about the moments in history that have led to real change. They almost always started with one person who was willing to stand alone, who was willing to say, "This is my truth, even if no one else sees it yet." That's the kind of strength we're talking about developing. But this strength isn't just for the big moments. It's for the small daily choices too. It's for those moments when you need to say no, even when everyone else is saying yes. It's for those times when you need to maintain your boundaries, even when others are pushing against them. It's for those situations when you need to trust your intuition, even when logic seems to point in a different direction. You see, the strength to survive alone isn't just about physical solitude. It's about developing an unshakable trust in your own inner knowing. It's about building such a strong relationship with yourself that external validation becomes unnecessary. When you develop this kind of strength, you become a permission slip for others to do the same. Your courage to stand alone in your truth gives others the courage to stand in theirs. Your willingness to listen to your inner wisdom encourages others to trust theirs. Think about that for a moment. Your journey toward inner strength isn't just about you. It's about creating a ripple effect that touches everyone around you. When you dare to be strong alone, you show others that it's possible. When you dare to trust your inner wisdom, you demonstrate that there's another way to live. Now let's talk about something very practical. How do you actually develop this inner strength? Because understanding the concept is one thing, but living it, breathing it, embodying it, that's something entirely different. First, you must understand that strength isn't built in the moments of comfort. It's built in the moments when you most want to run away, when you most want to hide, when you most want someone else to make the decision for you. These are your moments of power, your opportunities for growth. Let me share a powerful practice with you. I start with 5 minutes of complete solitude every day. No phone, no music, no distractions. Just you and your thoughts. At first, these might be the longest 5 minutes of your day. Your mind will rebel. It will create endless reasons why you need to check your phone or turn on the TV. But stay there, stay in that space. But because here's what's happening in those moments of solitude. You're developing a relationship with yourself. You're learning to be comfortable with your own thoughts, your own presence, your own company. This is the foundation of inner strength. Think about what happens when you put a tea bag in hot water. At first, nothing seems to be happening, but slowly, the water begins to take on the essence of the tea. That's what happens in these moments of solitude. You begin to absorb your own essence, your own wisdom, your own truth. But let's go deeper. Inner strength isn't just about being alone with your thoughts. It's about being alone with your decisions. Start practicing making small decisions without seeking anyone else's input. What do you want for lunch? What book do you want to read? What path do you want to take? These might seem like insignificant choices, but they're not. They're training grounds for your inner strength. Each time you make a decision based on your own wisdom rather than external input, you're building that muscle of self-trust. Here's something crucial. You will make mistakes. You will make wrong decisions, and that's perfectly okay. Because strength isn't built by always being right. It's built by being willing to stand back up after you fall, by being willing to learn from your mistakes, by being willing to keep going even when the path isn't clear. Think about this. Every master was once a beginner. Every strong person was once weak. Every independent soul once depended entirely on others. The journey from dependence to independence isn't about never needing help. It's about developing the wisdom to know when to stand alone and when to reach out. Let me share another practical truth with you. Yeah? Your emotional independence is just as important as your physical independence. Start practicing emotional self-regulation. When you feel overwhelmed, instead of immediately reaching for the phone to call someone, sit with those emotions for a few minutes. Get to know them. Understand them. This doesn't mean you never share your feelings or never seek support. It means you develop the strength to be with your emotions first, to understand them first, to process them first. This is what emotional independence looks like. When you develop this kind of emotional strength, your relationships actually become stronger because you're no longer relating from a place of emotional need, but from a place of emotional choice. You're no longer seeking others to fix your feelings. You're sharing your feelings from a place of self-awareness and strength. Think about the ocean again. The surface can be chaotic, with waves crashing and wind howling, but deep beneath, there's a stillness that remains undisturbed. That's what we're aiming for. Not to never feel the storms, but to develop such deep inner strengths that we can maintain our center even in the midst of chaos. Now let's talk about boundaries. Because developing inner strength requires developing strong boundaries. This means learning to say no without guilt, learning to stand firm in your decisions without apologizing, learning to protect your energy without feeling sad. Remember this. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your truth, you're saying no to your own strengths. Every time you compromise your boundaries to make others comfortable, you're compromising your own power. But here's the beautiful thing about boundaries. They're not walls, they're filters. They don't keep everything out. They simply ensure that what comes in aligns with your truth, your values, your path. Think about your own life for a moment. How many times have you felt drained because you couldn't say no? How many times have you felt resentful because you couldn't maintain your boundaries? How many times have you felt lost because you were trying to please everyone else? This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where theory becomes practice. This is where understanding becomes embodiment, because developing inner strength isn't just about knowing what to do. It's about actually doing it day after day, choice after choice, moment after moment. Let me share something profound with you. The strength to survive alone doesn't come from never needing anyone. It comes from knowing that you can handle things on your own when you need to. It comes from having such a strong relationship with yourself, that being. Think about this. When you're truly strong within yourself, you don't need to prove it to anyone. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to defend it. Your strength becomes evident in the way you carry yourself, in the decisions you make, in the boundaries you maintain. And here's a truth that might surprise you. The strongest people aren't those who never ask for help. They're those who have the wisdom to know when they need it and the courage to ask for it. Because true strength isn't about never needing support. It's about being secure enough in yourself to be vulnerable when necessary. As we come to the closing of our time together, I want to share something vital with you. This journey toward inner strength isn't a destination. It's an ongoing process of growth, discovery, and transformation. Every day presents new opportunities to choose strength over comfort, authenticity over approval, inner wisdom over external validation. Remember that butterfly we talked about at the beginning? There's something else remarkable about its transformation. Once it emerges from the cocoon, once it develops the strength to fly, it never goes back to crawling. That's what happens when you develop true inner strength. You can't unknow your own power. You can't undiscover your own capability. Think about this moment right here, right now. What if this was the moment you decided to trust yourself completely? What if this was the moment you chose to stop seeking permission to be who you are? What if this was the moment you embraced your capacity to stand alone in your truth? The strength you're seeking isn't something you need to acquire. It's something you need to uncover. It's already within you, waiting to be recognized, waiting to be trusted, waiting to be expressed. Let me share a profound truth with you. The moments that seem to break us are often the moments that make us. Those times when we feel most alone, most challenged, most tested, these are the times when we discover what we're truly capable of. Think about the greatest challenges you faced in your life. The moments when you thought you couldn't go on, but you did. The times when you thought you couldn't survive alone, but you did. The situations where you thought you needed someone else to save you, but you saved yourself. That strength that got you through those moments, it's still there. It's still yours. And here's something beautiful about developing this kind of strength. It becomes a gift you give to future generations. When you demonstrate the courage to stand alone in your truth, you show others that it's possible. When you trust your inner wisdom above the crowd's opinion, you give others permission to trust theirs. Think about this. Every person who has ever made a significant impact in the world had to learn to stand alone in their truth before others could stand with them. Every movement that has ever changed the world started with one person who was willing to. Remember this crucial truth. Being strong alone doesn't mean being alone forever. It means being so secure in who you are that you can form genuine connections rather than dependent attachments. It means being so grounded in your truth that you can appreciate others' truths without losing your own. Consider for a moment what your life would look like if you were truly unshakable in your inner strengths. How would you walk differently? How would you speak differently? How would you love differently? How would you live differently? Because that's what we're really talking about here. Not just surviving alone, but thriving alone. Not just standing alone, but soaring alone. Not just existing independently, but living authentically. Let me share one final truth. With the word bust, your unique strengths, not a copy of someone else's strengths, not a diluted version of your strength, but your full, authentic, magnificent strength. The strength that comes from knowing who you are and being unafraid to live that truth. Think about water again for a moment. In its liquid form, it can be contained, controlled, directed, but when it transforms into vapor, it becomes free, unlimited, unstoppable. That's what happens when you embrace your inner strength. When you develop this kind of strength, you become a lighthouse for others. Your courage becomes contagious. Your authenticity becomes inspiring. Your strength becomes a beacon that shows others what's possible. The strongest people aren't those who never fall. They're those who have the courage to rise again and again. They're not those who never feel fear. They're those who feel the fear and choose to be strong anyway. They're not those who never need help. They're those who have the wisdom to know when to stand alone and when to reach out. As you leave here today, I want you to carry this truth with you. You have within you everything you need to be strong alone. You have within you everything you need to stand in your truth. You have within you everything you need to create a life that reflects your authentic. Don't wait for permission to be strong. Don't wait for approval to stand in your truth. Don't wait for validation to trust your inner wisdom. The time is now. The person is you. The power is within. Let today be the day you choose yourself. Let today be the day you embrace your strength. Let today be the day you begin to trust the wisdom of your own heart above the noise of the world. When you're strong enough to stand alone, you become strong enough to stand for anything. When you're strong enough to trust yourself, you become strong enough to transform the world. When you're strong enough to embrace your solitude, you become strong enough to inspire multitudes. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Let this be your step. Let this be your moment. Let this be your transformation. Stand strong. Stand tall. Stand alone if you must. But most importantly, stand in your truth, because the world is waiting for the gift that only you can give. The gift of your authentic, unshakable, magnificent strength. The strength to survive alone isn't just about survival, it's about thriving. It's not just about standing, it's about soaring. It's not just about existing. You are stronger than you know. You are braver than you believe. You are more capable than you can imagine. And your journey to discovering that truth begins now. Thank you. And remember, the strongest people aren't those who never need help. They're those who have the courage to help themselves first. Go forth and be strong. The world needs your light.